Princess Diaries series was massively influential to me growing up. It was definitely one of my favorites and one of the most like impactful to me, one of the things that I most reread. And so I'm really looking forward to talking about it with you today because it was only a couple of years ago that I discovered that the Royal Wedding and the COVID books in the series had been released. I had absolutely no idea. Fake fan, I know. So I thought I'd reread the OG series in order to prepare myself for reading the two of them. And so we're going to start today with the first one. The Princess Diaries series, I think, was the series that introduced me to activism and especially feminism. So I just want to kind of go through and gush about it, what I used to love about it, things that I've noticed now that I've grown up, talk about if it's aged well, and especially if Michael Moskowitz is still the best boy ever written, because he was my hero of growing up. Absolute dream man. We're going to start with a little rundown of some of the characters and then I'm going to talk about the plot. So the main character of the Princess Diaries series is Mia. She's a vegetarian. She wants to grow up and work for Greenpeace. She has an iconic hat called Fat Louie and she's really bad at algebra. In fact, she is currently failing algebra despite only being at school for like a couple of months or something. We see that Mia has a lot of responsibilities for a 14-year-old. She has a lot of like to-do lists and things in her diary that show her picking up groceries and, you know, taking care of dry cleaning and stuff like that. Stuff that make us think that maybe her mother isn't a responsible kind of parent. One thing about Mia is that she lies to avoid hurting the feelings of others. The book actually opens up with her mum starting a relationship with her algebra teacher, and Mia pretends to be happy for them when really she's freaking out because she's scared that if anybody at school finds out, she's going to get bullied. So the lies aren't necessarily bad things, but they come back around to hurt Mia in the end, so she kind of has to learn not to do that. Mia is essentially an overthinker. She's overdramatic, but that's all because she's got a romantic mind, okay? She wants everything to be big and dramatic because then it's like in a movie or a book. It's an endearing thing about her that she's overdramatic, even though sometimes you do just kind of want to slap her and be like, Mia, calm the fuck down. Mia feels like she really doesn't fit in at school. She makes a big drama out of the fact that she's quite tall and she doesn't have boobs, and so she thinks that she's just never going to fit in. Mia's best friend is Lily Moskowitz, whose parents are psychoanalysts, and so Lily has kind of picked up things from them and is always trying to psychoanalyze Mia and like derive deeper meaning from the things that she says. Lily's a big activist. She goes around fighting injustice and thinking about things outside of school, while Mia is really stressed about the social hierarchy at school. Lily has her own TV show called Lily Tells It Like It Is. She's got a stalker who's obsessed with her feet called Norman. And in this first book, her mission that she's on, because she usually has something that she's got to be in her bonnet about, the mission that she's on in this one is that the deli across the road is charging certain like races of students, like overcharging them for certain things and giving discounts to, I think it's like the Asian students. She's advocating for fair treatment of all the students who go to the deli. So Lily's usually got some big project going on like this, and she doesn't really have a lot of time for Mia's feelings. So occasionally, in fact most of the time throughout the series, she's a really bad friend. But I quite like Lily and Mia as a duo. I feel like Mia cares about individuals and Lily cares about the bigger picture, and so together they could achieve great things. And Lily, also important piece of information, fancies a geeky violinist at school called Boris Bulkowski, who'll become important later. Lily's older brother is called Mike. He's Michael Moskowitz, you know, best boy. And it's very obvious to all of us reading that he's very into Mia, but of course Mia is completely clueless, even though she's kind of into him as well. Michael likes Buffy, he likes Xena, he's part of the computer club, he has his own webzine. This was the 90s, remember? And he also studies astrophysics at the local college, despite only being a high school student, which I think is very, very impressive. Another important fact about Michael is that he smells good. This isn't just important, it's vital to the entire storyline of the whole series, and I will not elaborate further. Tina is another friend that we will come across over the course of the story. She's sweet, she's girly, she really likes romance novels, but at the start of the story, Mia just sees her as this weird girl who sits across the cafeteria, who she thinks of as like a freak because she's got a bodyguard because her dad's some important guy and he's scared that she's going to get kidnapped when she's on the way to school, so she has to have like 24-hour security. Lana Weinberger is Mia's bully at school, and Josh, her boyfriend, is Mia's crush. Lana is this big bad bully in this first book, but her only weakness is Josh. She follows him around and like does things to get his approval, and we kind of get the feeling that she only even puts Mia down in order to get his approval. Like, you know, that mentality of, oh, if I put down all these other girls then he won't want anybody but me type effort. Josh is kind of just a 2D regular jock boy. He's just kind of attractive, and that's the only reason why Mia likes him. She does have a feeling that he's got a deeper side to him, but she has yet to see any evidence of that. So Mia obviously has a mum and dad, believes at the beginning of the book that her dad is a politician. He had cancer, and so as a result, he can't have any more kids. So Mia is an only child. She actually pays the bills so that her mum can be this arty person. I don't know, this carefree person that she is. They've got this dynamic that I kind of vibe with. She's irresponsible, but not at all with Mia, with her kids, you know what I mean? She's kind of a feminist icon. In this book in particular, she talks about how she doesn't agree with marriage and the cult of the patriarchy, where she's got to like take on her husband's second name and like be subservient to him, etc., etc. And this would have been one of the first times I'd ever heard about this kind of thing as a young person. So it's interesting that these little snippets were like fed into the narrative by way of the adult characters to kind of introduce us to these ideas as teens. Another important character, and our last one, is Grandmère, Dad's mum. She's formidable. Mia hates her at first. She's scared of her. She's, I mean, she is quite a woman. She's got like tattooed eyeliner. She's not particularly likable at first, but eventually she does become an iconic character, and she's always got a cute little dog with her called Rommel, so that's fun. Okay, I think I've introduced all of the important characters, and so we will move on to the plot of the first book, The Princess Diaries. Ignore the scenery change, logistics issues. So the plot. The book starts out with, like I said, Mia finding out that her mum is going to start dating her algebra teacher, Mr. G. She's not very happy about it because she thinks that if the kids at school find out, she's going to get bullied even more than she already does. She obviously doesn't want to ruin her mum's chance at happiness with this guy, and so she kind of keeps her mouth shut. Mum can tell that Mia's not exactly happy, but instead of pushing it, she gives Mia this diary and encourages her to start writing her feelings down in there because she feels like Mia has a hard time sharing her feelings. Which is true. These books are quite short, and so I like that it usually sets Mia up with a goal for over the narrative pretty immediately. And in this one, we can see that she needs to get more comfortable with her emotions and expressing them. So Mia goes to school, and she sees Lana and Josh making out against her locker like they do most mornings, blocking her way. She thinks that making out is gross, as do most 14-year-olds, but she does note that she probably wouldn't mind it if Josh kissed her like that. This is foreshadowing. And I'm going to note it right here, right now. Meg Cabot, kind of an expert at foreshadowing. She's like intro to foreshadowing for teenagers, okay? Because some of the stuff that she even sets up in this first book will only come to fruition or come to be contradicted in like the last book. So I don't even know if she had a full plan going into this series of what was going to happen, but she really utilized everything that she had, I think, in a really great way. And she subverts a lot of expectations in later books that she sets up here. And I really, really like that. It's one of the things that I really enjoy about the series. And one of the reasons that I like reading back over them so often. We're introduced to Mike, Lily's older brother, at her apartment after school. He finds out about Mia's mum and Mr. J and starts to blackmail Mia, saying like, what are you going to do for me that I don't tell everybody at school? And Mia's offering to do things like walk his dog and stuff like that, and doesn't realize that Mike is clearly flirting with her. Lily points it out once he's left the room. And Mia is mortified that she's clueless, but doesn't really think anything of it. She doesn't kind of take this as a hint that Mike likes her or anything, because Mia's a little bit of an idiot when it comes to romance. I like that it's obvious to us as the reader that Mike likes Mia, but that Mia's clueless, because it's not played off in such a way that it should be obvious to her, and it is believable that she might just have self-esteem issues and whatnot that can stop her from thinking that a guy like Mike could fancy her, right? It makes it fun when she has interactions with Mike to know that he's flirting with her and her to not have a clue, even if it might also be a little bit frustrating at times. At home outside Mia's apartment, we're introduced to the blind guy who waits for help crossing the street and then tries to feel up the women who help him cross. He will be relevant later, but for now I'd just like to bring up that I really like a lot of the side characters that Meg Cabot brings into this narrative. It really makes the world feel lived in and real. Mia's neighbours, some of the kids at school, Grandma and her dad's help later on in the book. They all just really make the world feel lived in. They really add to it, and they all have these little quirks and things that make them easy to remember for when they pop in and out of the narrative, and they just make them kind of iconic. So the plot really kicks in when Dad comes back to town and he sees he's got something really important to talk to Mia about. Calls her up and she accidentally lets slip that Mum's on a date, I think, and we can tell that Dad is immediately jealous. This is another one of them things that Mia is a little bit clueless about. I don't know whether it's meant to be explicitly obvious to the audience or not that Dad's kind of still into Mum, but it's not really a big theme in these earlier books, but it will come back later on, and so I thought I'd mention it here. Mia spends a lot of time at Lily's, and when she is at the apartment one day, they're playing this game about who they'd like to spend the rest of eternity with if the world were to end, right? And Mike overhears, and he hears Mia admitting that she fancies Josh from school. We can tell that Mike's jealous because he immediately starts negging Mia, being like, oh, well, only girls with no substance would fancy a guy like Josh. And she's like, well, I like Josh. I like that Mia's not afraid to admit that she likes Josh, despite it being mildly embarrassing. She's being true to her feelings in this moment, and we all know that's something she's got to work on, so props where it's due. I'm cold. It's cold in here. Wanted to be all prim and proper and girly for a Princess Diaries video, and I'm in the pea hoodie. So Mike's clearly jealous of Josh, which is another point in the column of Mike secretly fancying Mia. They somehow get onto the topic of virginity from this. I guess just because the girls are still virgins, and so if they were going to procreate with someone after the world ended, they would inevitably have to lose that virginity. And they go into all the stipulations about what a guy would have to do in order to, like, get the precious flower of the virginity or whatever. And, you know, as a grown-up, this is all a little bit annoying, and you know what, I'm sure there are grown-ups out there who still view virginity in this way, but it's just not for me. But I think that if we all look back, it is very relatable to think that as a 14-year-old, you probably did add all these stipulations that were kind of impossible for a 14-year-old boy to do, right? Like, these girls want to be in a fancy 5-star hotel and have like rose petals on the bed and champagne and things like that, even though I'm pretty sure none of them have ever had champagne. But that's the kind of idealism that romance movies instill into you as a child, and so I find it annoying, yes, but also relatable. Mia's stipulations are actually quite unique in the fact that she says she will only give her virginity to a man who would go and watch the Beauty and the Beast musical with her and not laugh. Mike says that no man with any amount of testosterone would ever be able to do that. Obviously, at this point, I and the rest of the audience know that Mia and Michael are endgame because of the casual teasing, flirting that is going on. And so it's only a matter of time until either one, Mike goes to see Beauty and the Beast with Mia, or two, Mia realizes that other things are more important than a man coming to watch Beauty and the Beast with you. And we will see by the end of this series which one it is. So Mia goes to meet Dad, and it's the big princess reveal. Turns out he's not a politician. He's the Prince of Genovia, this small European country. Now that he can't have any more kids, it turns out that Mia's going to have to one day step up as his heir to the throne. And Mia's not very happy about it. She goes and cries in the penguin enclosure at the zoo. Eventually, she is convinced to take on her princess duties. Her dad tries to bribe her with money, which I think is kind of iconic, to be fair. But Mia doesn't take the money. She actually makes him donate, I think it's $100 a day to Greenpeace instead, which is very admirable of her and teaches good values in young women, I think. I know that it wouldn't serve the narrative, but it is good that Mia doesn't just immediately think, oh, I'm a princess now, I don't have to do anything or accomplish anything in life or have any morals anymore because everything's just going to be handed to me on a platter. Admittedly, she does think that she's not going to have to do algebra if she's a princess, but she quickly learns that that's actually not true because she has to do finance things. So she is contradicted in her one instance of brassiness. So that's nice. So now enter Grommer. She comes into town essentially to teach Mia how to act like a princess and to make her into the person that she should have been if she was being raised to be a royal, right? The first order of business is to get Mia a makeover where Grommer makes her go blonde. She like cuts all her hair off, she gives her fake fingernails, she gets shaved, waxed, you name it. And for comfort after this horrendous experience, because Mia isn't a girly girl, she isn't into all this makeover stuff, she goes over to Lily's, and Lily is not a massive comfort to her. Lily, I feel, doesn't like when Mia makes decisions without her. She doesn't like it when Mia shows her independence. I don't really know why in this first book, but my theory based on the rest of the series is that Lily's a controlling person anyway. She likes to have the control. But I think that Lily knows that Mia is a genuinely nice and likable person and that other people do want to be her friend. And Lily's not necessarily the most forthcoming person, and people don't necessarily feel the same way about her. And maybe she's like scared to lose Mia if Mia is to make herself look like Lana Weinberger, which is the insult that Lily throws at her when she turns up to her apartment. And Mia, feeling like she's completely out of control in the entire rest of her life, having had her entire future now decided for her, and her Grommer completely change her appearance pretty much against her will, tells Lily to shut up. She wants to feel like she has control in this one part of her life. And I feel like because Lily's obviously her best friend, she feels like that's the person who she's most comfortable to stand up to. But it doesn't go very well because Lily doesn't speak to her after that. So an upside of this is that Mike starts to tutor her in algebra because he finds out that she's failing. There is a dance on Saturday. And Mike keeps trying to ask Mia what she's doing on Saturday, and we know that he's trying to ask her to the dance, but Mia thinks he's going to try and ask her to go and do more tutoring sessions, and she really doesn't want to do maths on the weekend, so she keeps avoiding the question. Very, very frustrating, but also very fun. Things with Mum and Mr. G are going well. It seems like they are deeply in love because Mum goes on a horse carriage ride around Central Park, I think, and Mia thinks and agrees that she thinks those horse carriage rides are inhumane, and she doesn't think that the riders treat the horses very well. She thought her mum felt the same way, and she's like usurped these morals to go on this romantic horse carriage ride with Mr. G. And Mia says love does funny things to people, and I'm going to try and circle back to this when Mia also usurps her own morals concerning these horse carriage rides. But I might forget, so I'll mention it here without any context and hope that the real ones understand. While Mia and Lily aren't talking, Lily gets together with Boris, the violinist, who she fancied from the beginning, and basically replaces Mia in Mia's eyes, I guess. Lily and Boris actually become a firm couple from now, and so I will talk a little bit about their dynamic because I actually really like it. I enjoy Lily and Boris together because I think it's funny, not because I necessarily think they are a good couple. Because Lily, even though she liked Boris and like presumably actively pursued him, once they get together, she just doesn't care about him anymore, and he's like this little hanger-on who's totally smitten with her, and she just couldn't give less of a shit. She actually treats him quite poorly in later books, but for now it's just kind of giving this strong independent woman vibe and her cute little gay husband. As a result, Mia has nowhere to sit at lunch, and so she goes to sit with Tina Hakeem Barber, who is the girl with the bodyguard who I talked about in the beginning. Obviously, we find out that Tina's actually really nice, and Mia feels bad for judging Tina for having a bodyguard. They actually become firm friends from this point, and I'm glad, because Mia really needed somebody with more emotion in her life other than Lily. Lana Weinberger, the bully, actually comes over and tries to like terror Tina and Mia for sitting together. And Mia, who's never stood up to Lana before, really, and is quite scared of her, because Lana is making fun of Tina at Mia's expense, Mia actually finds the courage to stand up to Lana, and she ends up sticking an ice cream cone in the middle of her sweater. It's interesting because Mia oftentimes finds it hard to express herself and to stand up for herself and to even voice her opinions and her feelings. But even in this first book, when it comes to other people and injustices done to them, she's got no problem standing up for that. And that comes from like her as like an activist with her whole thing about being a vegetarian and loving the animals and blah, blah, blah. I relate to that. I relate to this. If you say something to one of my friends, I will stand up for them. I will fight. I will bite you. But if you say something to me, I'll probably just cry. So I relate to Mia hard in this moment. And it's a good start, right? Her standing up for somebody else to her personal bully is obviously a step in the right direction for her being able to stand up for herself next time. So it's a good progression as far as the book goes. Mia this whole time has been trying to keep the fact that she's a princess a secret, obviously, like she does with everything in her life. And it somehow gets revealed on the news. It actually is a big reveal that Grandma is the one who kind of leaked the story, which is not surprising. Grandma's kind of set up as a villain in this first story, but I feel like it's just more that she's misunderstood and her and Mia need to learn how to get along. Grandma, in a lot of instances, just doesn't understand Mia and doesn't understand why she doesn't want to be a princess and doesn't want people to know about it. And so, in a weird way, she probably thinks she was doing Mia a favor. It's not just that Mia's got to turn around and be like, oh, she's old and weird and that's just the way she is and I've got to accept it. It's a case of Mia's got to be softer towards Grandma and try and make her see her side. And, you know, we'll see the relationship develop from here. And it's actually one of my favorite parts of the series. Mia stands up to Grandma for the first time and is like, upset with her for doing this and for essentially ruining her life as Mia sees it right now. Mia, like Tina Hakeem Barber before her, gets a bodyguard, and everybody at school knows that she's a princess and she believes herself to be officially branded now a freak. She's got a real issue with what other people think of her, actually. I wonder if that is going to change. Lily's fuming that Mia has kept this secret from her, supposedly, even though they haven't been speaking. She turns around and speaks to Mia for the first time in a class that they are in with Mike. Lily's getting on at Mia about sovereignty, basically, being like, oh, like, one man appointed by God isn't fair, and people should vote for their leaders. And Mike, who actually knows a lot about the political state of Genovia, stands up for Mia. And Lily, using big words that Mia doesn't understand, basically says to Mike that he's only defending Mia because he's thinking with his dick. And Mia never picks up on this comments because she makes a note to look up the words that Lily uses later and presumably never does. It's right there in front of us the whole time, guys, and all we needed to do was pick up a dictionary. Shockingly, it couple of the school, Josh Richter and Lana Weinberger, two terrible names to say aloud for me, they break up. And it's this whole thing, and Lana's devastated. And Mia actually feels pretty sorry for her because, previously I feel like she's seen Lana as this all-powerful being at school, and seeing her in this depleted state, it makes her feel sorry for her, right? We know that Lana was always weak for Josh, and I don't know, it's like the power of the mythical cheerleader, right, is in having the hot jock boyfriend. So Lana is depleted in this moment as like a character and a person. And then Josh asks Mia to the dance on Saturday. Mia, even though she does feel bad for Lana, this is Josh Richter we're talking about, right? She's fancied him since at least the beginning of the book, and before that, if we are to believe what Mia writes. So she obviously says yes. It's actually one of my favourite moments in the book. I remember loving this when I was younger because when Mike finds out that Mia's going to be going to the dance with Josh, he asks Lars, her bodyguard, if he's going to be there the whole time, because he wants to know that Josh isn't going to try anything on with me because he's jealous. I love it. And I love that, like, we obviously know from previous comments that Lily knows that Mike is into Mia, but it is like so 100 that him and Lars become like this tag team together in the background, knowing what is going on and being the boys and knowing that Mia is clueless. I love it. Oh my god. I love Michael Moskowitz. Like, just the way that everybody is just so onto the fact that he likes her, and the way that he's just patiently waiting for her to be the last one to realise. It's not like he's waiting for her. Obviously, we find out later on that he wasn't exactly waiting for her, but he was waiting for her. Stop it, right. I'm getting too emotional. We're all going to calm down. We're going to get back to the plot. Mum and Dad don't want Mia to go on the date with Josh because he's older and he has a reputation at school, which her mum knows about because obviously she's dating her algebra teacher. And the person who comes in clutch for Mia and says that she must go to this dance with this boy is Grandma. And so she kind of redeems herself a little bit for the big princess reveal and shows that she does care about Mia in her own little way. And this is the beginning of a beautiful friendship. I absolutely love Grandma. I think she's great. I just think she's just misunderstood, bro. Mia doesn't get her and she doesn't get Mia. And they grow together over the course of the series. And it's beautiful. A beautiful familial relationship. You know I love a story about girls, about women, and these two are some of the best. I think that Grandma also gained respect for Mia when she stood up to her about the princess thing, right? Because previously she obviously just saw Mia as a child, which she probably doesn't have a very high opinion of anyway. Mia's very soft-spoken and shy and not the way that Grandma is, like flashy and showy and proud of her royalty, essentially. I feel like Mia standing up to her was her first sign that Mia is actually a strong person and does have her own sets of morals, and that Grandma is going to have to like contend with them. For now, Mia sees it as Grandma can be useful. She can maybe get her on side because she thinks that Dad's scared of her and won't stand up to her, and so she can use that to get what she wants. But I don't think that she necessarily sees Grandma as an ally for right now. That will change. It will change, Mia. So the dance. Josh turns up, doesn't really take the time to ask Mia any questions about herself or really talk to her at all, get to know her. He actually drinks and drives, which is unsexy, very unsexy. He orders Mia a steak, and as we know from the beginning, Mia is a stout vegetarian. He doesn't know this about her, and that's kind of fine because they don't know each other very well, but he kind of just like didn't ask her what she wanted to eat. And he didn't ask her any questions on the way there that might have led her into admitting that she was in fact a vegetarian. So it's kind of his own fault that she feels bad about that. It turns out that Josh actually called reporters ahead of time so that the paps would see him with Mia and he could get his picture in the paper or whatever, which is skeezy as hell. And he kisses her, obviously, in front of them without her permission. Most importantly, though, Mia does notice when she's hugging Josh and stuff that he just doesn't smell anywhere near as good as Michael Moskowitz. And it's just not the same. So this is the moment when Mia finally stands up for herself, and it's against Josh, who's this like throwaway nothing boy, and he basically fades into nothingness in the narrative from now. So it's not really much of anything. It meant more when she stood up to Grandma, but I think because this is such a big dramatic situation, and because Josh is this boy who we feel like she might have been weak for because of her crush on him, it is this big deal that Mia has finally stood up for herself and expressed her feelings, and especially in front of like all the paparazzi and the people in the school and stuff, makes Lily come forward and apologize and say, you know, admit that she has flaws and sometimes Mia's right, and they make up and they're friends again. Mike turns up to the dance. He dances with Mia, and when they go to his apartment afterwards, he invites her into his room and he plays her a song that she's pretty sure he wrote about her. And so it's like, does Mia now know that Mike likes her? Are they going to get together maybe in the next book? Let's find out. So the book finishes up with Grandma getting accosted by the blind guy, and she like decks him in the face, and it turns out that he's not even blind. Mia doesn't want Grandma to leave the city with this bad impression of it, because Mia really does love the place where she grew up, and so they all go up onto the rooftops together to watch the sunset. And it's really nice because they all have this moment of harmony. Her mum, her dad, and Grandma, despite her parents being split up, and none of them really liking Grandma very much at this point in time. There's this like small moment of harmony at the end that like brings it all together. And we did get a happy ending with her friends, and she's kind of come to terms with the fact that she's gonna one day be a princess, even though she's got a lot more to learn. And that is the end of the book. And I really do think that it's just a nice intro to Mia and her life. It doesn't overwhelm us with too much stuff, and it keeps things very grounded for the first book in the series. Like, we didn't just immediately go off and send Mia to a castle and make it completely alienating. It's good. I love it. I love Mia. She's an every woman. But she definitely has her quirks. Like, she's not someone that I can just project myself onto, right? We definitely don't have a lot of the same interests and things like that. Standing up for yourself versus standing up for others. These are lessons that Mia learns over the course of the narrative, but not really that she learns cognitively. So I feel like they're going to be recurring themes throughout the series. Mia does learn that compatibility is more important than attraction through her relationships with Mike and Josh. She's really attracted to Josh all the way through the book, but then when she actually gets to go on a date with him, she finds that they don't have anything to talk about, and she ends up thinking that she'd much rather have spent an evening with Mike talking about Buffy the Vampire Slayer. And Mike's smell is important later, I promise. I'm not just a weirdo who's obsessed with pheromone. One thing that I must mention is the idea of self-actualization and Carl Jung. Mia's obsessed with it and she doesn't understand it. Like, Lily mentions it in passing one day and Mia just latches on to whatever she thinks the idea of self-actualization is, and she's obsessed with it for the rest of the series. I think in this first book, Mia thinks that self-actualization just means like growing boobs and having friends, maybe attending a party at one time. Another thing I cannot go without mentioning is the lists that Mia makes. They are iconic. I also have an obsession with making lists. I feel like this is a girl thing. I don't know, you just make lists. The list that you can make yourself, like she's like, oh, 10 women I admire most in the world, or like top 10 movies that scarred me for life and things like this. It's fun. Mia says that she will never be the lead in a musical, and she is the lead in a musical in, I think, the 7th book. And just as a whole, I just really love this book and this series. I'm really excited about where it's going to go and the things that we're going to talk about. And we just needed to get this baseline down and talk about where it all began. So, peace.